Corso and Catone.
Listen, Mark, hold on. When I say, would you have caffeine today?
What the hell is that up to?
Presented by Special Sauce Podcast, Studio 42 Design, and Corso Law Group. Now for the real deal New England feel, Corso and Catone.
Welcome into Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. I'm Corso. Catone is here. Joe is in the booth, and you're with us watching on YouTube, listening on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, anywhere you podcast. You can catch us. And, hey, make sure you give us a call on Heated Hotline, 855-313-PATS, 24/7. Leave us a message. Have a take. Joe's going to choose the one he thinks is best. Let's hope that one's yours. So 855-313-7287. Hey, we got a good one today. Defense wins championships, Mark. Defense wins championships. T-Rex, dinosaur.
Absolutely. No, they do. They do win championships in all sports.
So at B's and C's, we're going to talk defense as they go forward with the playoffs. We'll recap that. And then, of course, Catone's comments. Stick around for that. And in Pat's preview, we're going to break down defense, linebackers, defensive backs, some of the things the Patriots will need for next week's draft. So, gentlemen, we're actually broadcasting. We're recording on a Wednesday night. The Bruins are playing right now. So just, so you know. So when you hear us Saturday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, you're going to see how right we really are, that we are the real deal New England feel, right? Right, Mark?
I'm always right. What they're going to see. They know I'm always right.
Well, let's see how right you are, because we're going to talk a little Celtics and Bruins in B's and C's. Joe, are you ready?
We are.
Do it.
Apparently not. The system don't want to do it.
Okay, so Mark, the Celtics and the Bruins have opened up their first-round series. We'll start with the Celtics. They're up 2-0 in the series against Atlanta, and I don't think that's a huge surprise to anyone, winning those first two games at home.
No.
But up 2-0 in the series. They've had big leads in both of these games. They've blown the lead in the first game. They had like a 30-point lead. They cut it down to 12 at one point. And then in game 2 last night, the lead was up to maybe 17, 18, and it kind of, hovered in that area. What are you seeing in this series so far? Is there anything that concerns you?
Two things. One thing that I think is encouraging, Chris, is there are spurts where they're showing that defensive intensity that you and I said. They're coming up with stops. They're playing the ball. They're keeping guys away from the rim. They're rebounding. That defensive tenacity that you and I talked about, saying they hadn't really shown this year like they did with Udoka, I think they're showing it more now in the playoffs. In pockets, not an entire game, but in pockets to get those big leads, Chris, they have. And Marcus Smart has played well in those stretches. The other thing, though, Chris, is on the flip side, there has been a lack of focus and concentration at times. So I'm saying that, and then on the other hand, you see them kind of get lulled to sleep, and they let these teams back in the game. You do that against a good team, and you may have a problem.
Yeah, I mean,
because I don't consider Atlanta a good team, Chris.
No, I don't either, and that's the whole thing about it. And we talk about, like I said, the team, defense wins championships. Well, like you say, and you've been saying it, we've been saying it. As the defense goes, this team goes. They get out in transition after misses out there. They get out and run. They create spacing. They have the guards to do it. And so when they're hot on defense, man, they'll blow any team out of they'll blow any team out, and they'll run them out of the building too. And so you start to see that. I will say, well, I agree with you. Marcus Smart has been fantastic defensively in the first two games, because we talked about, is he even the best guard they have right now? Or is Brogdon and White? And right now, White's probably the MVP of the series so far, with how he's been playing. But, Marcus Smart's playing great defense, and they all are. And you see it. It's contagious. And it goes on, and they get out in transition. But, Mark, looking at, I talked about the point guards a little bit. And yeah, I do see what you're saying about, they kind of get lulled to sleep, and you see that with the superstars a little bit. But I will say, and gets me to my point with the point guards, is you see the attempts across the board. There's not, Tatum and Brown are taking all the shots. White's up there in attempts. Brogdon's up there in some attempts. And so we talked a few weeks ago, and I really want to know your take on this. We talked about the point guards on this team, and we said we were looking at all three of them. Brogdon, White, Smart. And Smart had the lowest numbers out of the three of them. And it seems to me that these three guys have gotten together and decided, hey, it's a group effort here. Because as they go, this team goes. I'm not even saying Tatum and Brown right now. I'm saying these guys. That's what I see in these first two games. I see Derek White driving this ship right now. Don't you?
Yeah, they are. The 3-point guards are. But the thing, Chris, that they're doing is ball movement. And we talked about this a few weeks back. You were talking about ball movement, and you want to see ball movement, not just come up, pitch, take a three, miss, other team gets a rebound. You wanted to see ball movement, wide open shots, easiest shots, drives to the basket. And you're seeing that in these first two games. And as you said, Chris, it's because of the play of the three guards, right? That ball movement, those cuts to the basket, the driving to the basket, they're getting those opportunities because of the ball movement created by the three guards. So yeah, Chris, they've been the catalyst right now. Not Brown, not Tatum, the 3-point guards. If you've really watched the games, that's what that's what you see.
Yeah, I mean, those two guys are getting the point. I mean, Tatum's getting the points as the beneficiary
of
the
the ball movement and the guards. Yeah.
And, game one, I started to get nervous because they were kind of turning the ball over quite a bit, and you start to see it. I start getting aggravated saying, I see Jaylen Brown carrying the ball. And I'm like, this is not, we don't need to do that anymore.
Wow.
You got facilitators, you got guys that can deal with that, and you can be the beneficiary of that without ripping your hand open again, which we'll get to in a second. But so that's one thing that I see that's going on in the series so far. Some of the concerns, though, as you say, is the usual. They go to sleep and they come up and it's a one pick shot. Not even open shots sometimes. And settling for those 3-point shots when they don't really have to. Atlanta's a team that they can be had in the paint. We said this coming into the series, especially with Young, who doesn't like to play defense. Post them up. Man, if Robert Williams would just if they would post him up, he would be unstoppable, Mark. Why? Why isn't that happening?
I don't know. I don't know. Is he not healthy? I don't know. And they're still limiting his minutes, Chris. He's not getting, so I don't know. Unless they're trying to limit him for later when he's going to go against Embiid and those guys, and maybe they're trying to conserve him because we know he's always getting injured. But you're right, Chris. This is a series where he could dominate. But it's almost like we don't need. It's almost like we don't need him here. Let's, slow him down, not give him as many minutes. Don't work him too hard because we're going to need him against Embiid. We're going to need him against Giannis. And we'll talk about the Milwaukee series a little later. Doesn't that seem to you, Chris, like it's almost like they're tempering him down and managing him because they know it's a long haul? Because last year in the playoffs, he was only able to play every other game. Remember?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And same thing with Tatum, 6'8". There's nobody on that team for Atlanta that's going to deal with him in the post.
Tatum, Chris, did more of that his first few years in the league. He doesn't do that anymore. The post up, like everything with him lately is drive or outside 3-point. Like he doesn't do that anymore, Chris. He did that more earlier in his career.
Well, and again, against a team like this, that's all he should. I mean, and it's not it's not as tough as he's making it with the drives, with those Euro steps and drives. But hey, look, they're up 2-0 in the series, and as far as Mazzulla goes. We talked a lot about what's he going to be like. Is Snyder going to push him a little? What do you make about how he's doing? I look at who's playing for them, and I see Hauser's got 15 minutes per. I don't see Grant Williams on the floor at all, Mark.
No, and Hauser gives them a little bit more offensively, Chris. And I think in this series, I don't think they need a defender out there, a rebounder as much, because as you said, they don't have anybody underneath that can challenge you. That's going to be grabbing rebounds. So I think they're trying to get Hauser into the flow of a game and get him get him going, because you may need Hauser later in the playoffs because he is a much better scorer than Williams.
Yeah, so as the series goes forward and moves on, and if the Celtics take a 3-0 lead, or, you may start to see some of these guys coming in off the bench, fresh legs too. So we'll see what happens there. And then later on the series, because the Heat's giving Milwaukee going to give them a run for their money now, taking home court back. And Giannis, we don't know his status, don't know if he's going to play tonight. So
that's going to be two. He's out. He's out for game 2.
Out. So, there's a very good chance that team can go down 0-2, and that changes the whole outlook of the Eastern Conference. There should be a direct road to the final. So keep tuned in. We'll be talking about this week after week. We'll hear what your take is in Heated Hotline. As the defense goes, they go, Mark, and flipping to the other team in Boston. We're talking about the Bruins now. They're playing right now. It is Wednesday. They were up 1-0 in the series. No Patrice Bergeron, Mark. And what do you make of game 1? What do you see right
game
now?
Game 1, Chris, they as you said to me during the game when it was going on, we weren't impressed with them the first 2 periods of that game, right? No. They didn't show, they were a little lackluster. I think it took them a while to get going. They played much better in the third period, I thought. But again, Chris, Florida should not be shouldn't challenge them, right? So I mean, Bergeron not being in a lineup, they're probably not going to miss him in this series, and I wouldn't be surprised, Chris, if they go up 2-0, 3-0. You may not see Bergeron play at all in the series. They may say, you know what, just rest, practice, get ready for the next round, because there'll be no more taking nights off once you get back. But I will say, what game of the season did he get hurt in, Chris? What game was it? Last game.
Well, you didn't need to play the last game. They had already got the record.
Because Chris and I have gotten into this debate several times. He shouldn't have been on the ice in the last game because they had the record. But I'll leave it at that, Chris. Oh, here we go, Joe.
Listen, I'll say what Belichick says all the time. You let me know when he's going to get hurt, and I'll sit him down. So look, I listen. I know what you're saying.
Jurassic Park. That's a Jurassic Park. You and Belichick.
I completely understand what you're saying. I just, me, I'm a guy that likes to have momentum. I like that. I mean, especially with the Bruins, man, they were just flying into the playoffs, and I don't want any disruption. Okay, one or two guys. I told you that I would have been fine with him sitting. Period. Limiting the shifts, those kinds of things. But hey, look, I think it's one of those situations where if he had to play, he could.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens. But I agree with you. Those first 2 periods in the first game. Yes, sloppy. Florida was beating them to loose pucks, and they were very sloppy in the offensive zone. A lot of what the Bruins do and the strength of this team is getting into the offensive zone, okay, cycling around, forechecking down, defenseman pinching in, keeping the puck in the zone. And Florida was just beating them to the punch on almost every offensive zone. I mean, shit, in the second period, I think, going into the third or just at the end of the second period, they had like 9. When they scored that last goal in the second period to go up 3-1, I believe, they had 10 shots. That was like their 10th shot. So
we just said Florida's style of play is a poor man's Tampa, poor man's right, and it was a style that if they had the horses, you could see a little bit of a foreshadowing here as they play better talent. They're going to have to step their game up because you're right. They weren't playing their game the first 2 periods. Luckily, they're so much better than Florida that it didn't make a difference in game 1.
Well, the goaltending made the difference because Ullmark was great. We were worried about him. We were worried about whatever that lower injury was, lower body injury, whatever that is. But he looked great in this game, and I feel like he was the reason why in those first 2 periods. Because again, I thought Florida outplayed them. They outshot them. They attempts, all of it, and they just couldn't put it behind Ullmark. And he made some great saves, and then they woke up in the third period, like we talked about. But I think talking about missing Bergeron real quick. Listen, I have no problem. They're so deep. Zaka coming up from the wing on the second line and playing, centering that Marchand and DeBrusque line. Look, I thought he played great. I really
He
do.
did it. Chris, you were right about who was going to be the odd man out. By the way, you said it a month ago.
Yeah, and
Right?
with Grzelcyk, you're talking about the defensive pairing.
You said it. Yeah, you
yeah.
said
I mean, it's just, and for this kind of season Grzelcyk had, I mean, he had a great season numbers wise. His plus minus was fantastic, but historically in the playoffs, he hasn't been good. And you know, Forbort got the call over him, and I think it's the right call because you need that grit and you need that power that in front of Ullmark. You need to be moving guys away from the net, getting those screens away from
playoff hockey,
Ullmark.
Chris. What he gives you is playoff hockey. That's why
Right.
you win in the playoffs, right? And we talked about that. That's the guys that those guys that they picked up down the stretch. That's playoff guys that play playoff hockey. Their style of play wins championships, and they brought those guys in during the stretch run to solidify what they probably needed for the cup. And the other thing is, you bring up Ullmark, Chris. That's what had been missing in the past, because in a game one, the way they played the first couple of periods, if Tuukka Rask was the goalie, he probably would have given up a couple of goals, 2 or 3.
Yeah,
the
maybe.
way Florida was playing. Ullmark is giving you something you haven't had since Tim Thomas when they went on the run to win the cup, right? And Ullmark should, based on his body of work this year, Chris, should be able to give you that the whole playoff. And that's why you're the prohibited favorite.
Yeah, and you know who you got to give some credit to is the goalie coach, Bob. This guy, since Tim Thomas, man, they've had relevant goals. They've had goalies that have been up towards the top of the league every single year, whether it's Thomas, Rask, Ullmark, even Hasek there had, I can't remember. I'm not remembering his name right. But again, the goaltending's always there, and you don't worry about putting Swayman out there if you have to. So, yeah, the defensive pairings, Olaf, look, he had that one bad turnover, okay, but you haven't seen that since he's gotten here. But otherwise, he's been playing great. Bertuzzi, another guy that his first playoff, this is the first playoff game was game one. He had 2 assists in that game? Yeah. He made his presence. You like when he stole the guy's stick and brought it to his bench with him? I like that shit. But that's the kind of stuff they were missing. They didn't have that grit. They didn't have those Hathaways. That's another guy. A little sturdy shot here and there.
They made all those moves down the stretch. Every year, everyone is always complaining, well, they don't do anything at the trade deadline to make. Well, guess what? They did something at the trade deadline this year, Chris. And all those guys they brought in are going to contribute, I'm hoping, to a Stanley Cup. Conversely, the team we just talked about really made no moves at the trade deadline.
Right.
We'll see how that works out for them, because they could have. But the Bruins did. The Bruins were all in, and we said it at the trade deadline. And those guys they brought in, Chris, you saw in game one, they're going to contribute, and they're going to absolutely. They're going to be the reason you hopefully win the cup.
Yeah, it's the reason why you can it's the reason why you can put Zaka, you bring him in, you can put him on, you're putting him up on the first line at center. You got Bertuzzi on the second line from the third line. I mean, these guys, and Hathaway on the fourth line, got grit and that into corners, just those nice little cheap shots, those little digs and shots. Marchand's not the only guy now on the team.
No.
that gives you that, so you can afford to have guys like Bergeron take a breather here and there, even on a shift, to be able to get that done. And so, yeah, I mean, defensively, I think their pairings are great. Olaf was, to me, he's been the best pickup. Zaka too. I mean, so they're loaded, they're stacked. We'll see what happens. I mean, keep right now it's 0-0, still in the first period on Wednesday night. We'll see what happens. They're going to play tonight, and then they're going to play again on, is it Saturday? I think they play again on Saturday.
I think it might be Saturday.
They go down to Florida. That'll be the game. If in both of these series, that'll be the game that I think game 3, both of those games may be an issue for them. So
I predicted
we'll see what
Celtics sweep. I predicted a Celtics sweep, by the way.
You did. I had them in 5. So
you got them in 5.
We'll see. Stay tuned to see if our predictions are right. And let's hear from you in Heated Hotline. Give us a call. Let us know. Leave us a message. Tell Mark how wrong he is, because usually something.
You know what? No one's going to respond to you. No one's responding to you.
So defense wins championships. B's and C's was presented by Special Sauce Podcast. What's your special sauce? SpecialSaucePodcast.com. Hey, when we come back, buckle up. Catone's Comments is next.
It's the Special Sauce Podcast. You like the sauce? The sauce is good.
This will start off as finance. Train them, trust them, and let them lead.
With your host, Marcus Arias. Tune in to Special Sauce Podcast, wherever you podcast. What's your special sauce? Time for Catone's Comments!
So I bust Chris up about being T-Rex and being a dinosaur and all this other stuff. Well, I'm going to admit that this weekend I myself turned into T-Rex and I turned into a dinosaur. And I'm going to explain to you why. I had to go to one of those stores I love to go to. I got sent to one of those stores that I love to go to.
Oh, boy.
I need some assistance. Do you think you can find anybody in a store that'll assist you anymore? I'm walking around. I need something in the store. I can't find it, but you can't find anybody to assist you. It took 15 minutes. I'm going down every aisle in the place. There's nobody in this place that can assist me or help me or give me an answer. And then when you do find somebody, oh, that's not my department, my area. I can't help you. You're going to find somebody over there. Well, I just walked around for 15 minutes. You're telling me that I got to find somebody else? Are you kidding me? Really? You can't assist me. No, that's not. I don't know anything about that. Oh, then why do you work here? Why are you working here? You can't help me? Really? Okay, fine. No problem. Walk around another 10 minutes to get somebody else. I wasted probably a half hour just trying to get assistance. Never mind purchasing something and buying it just to get assistance. But that's not why I'm a dinosaur. So now I go to purchase the product. I'm in line. Okay. Now, nothing. There's no more such thing as cash. You can't pay cash. You got cash is no good. It's a dirty word. Cash is a dirty, dirty word. They don't want to see cash. Everything is paperless. Great. But these machines, this technology, it changes every 10 minutes. It's different. The thing that you got to pay with is different. I used to you swipe the card. Okay. I'm looking to swipe the card. You can't swipe the card. There's no swipe. I said, what the hell is this? There's no swipe. Oh, no, wait a minute. We're going to put the chip. Push it in. I'm going to push it in. There's no trick. There's no hole for the chip. I said, what the hell is this? Now, the last thing, usually they got the on top. Now, they got the machines where the chip goes on top. You put it on top, right? There's no slot for the top. So now I turn this up. Now, there's nobody there. There are no workers at any cash register. They just all self-checkout. So now I get somebody and say, where do I put the card to buy this foolish thing that took me a half hour to buy? Tap it. I said, tap what? They said, tap the machine. I said, what tap it? I'll tap it with my hand. What do you mean, tap the machine? They said, with the card. I said, what? They said, tap it. I tapped it. The goddamn thing, the price comes up in pennies. I said, what is this tap it? What? Listen, I want the old-fashioned cash register where the guy's there. He hits the button, and the buttons come up the top. Bing, 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 bing. Remember those cash registers? And then the drawer opens. And then that's what I want. And then they put the money in the cash register, and they put the metal piece on top of the money to hold the money in place. That's what I want. I want those cash registers back. Put the whole swipe, tap. Listen, I'm a dinosaur. Yes, I'm a dinosaur. I'm T-Rex. I'm like Chris. I don't want these machines anymore. Give me cash. That's it.
Give him cash or give him death. That's it. I will say this. I don't think there's anyone in the world who could help or assist you.
By the power vested in me of the T-Rex organization and all the dinosaurs around the world, I dubbed D a dinosaur. I'm going to turn my Rothstein glasses over to you, Mark. Joe, I'm sorry. I can't help laughing at this. Cash, if you ask anybody under the age, I don't know, Joe, what do you think? What a cash register is?
Yeah, right.
We need to do.
You know
we
what?
need to send Joe out on the street.
Anymore. It's not even millennials anymore because their generation's already up. It's the next one already.
Right. Yeah, because millennials are what, like 20? I looked this up the other night because I was all irritated about something. I don't know. But millennials are what, like 24 to like 38 or something like that in that range?
Something like that.
Of like 2020. Something like that, right? So cash register, that's what you want. You want the chick, 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 that sound.
Well, no, but Chris, now you tap the card. There's no more swipe. There's no more put the chip in. Now they tell you to tap. The kids said tap it. I said, what tap? What tap what? Did you know you got to tap it?
Mark stood back. Mark stood back from the register. Listen to me. From the checkout line and started tap dancing. He thought the guy was asking him to do a dance for him in order to pay for the stuff. You know.
He said tap it. I thought the horse race was going on. I was going to start tapping my leg as they come down the stretch. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about.
Just remember, Joe, at the 21-minute mark on April 22nd, 2023, Mark. So, Mark called himself a dinosaur. Mark finally,
okay, listen,
joined the club.
He officially joined.
Only for that one thing. Not you're just a constant dinosaur.
Well, let the people decide in the hotline what kind of dinosaur you are.
I joined the club. I did because I didn't know tap. What am I tapping?
Listen, first of all, it's called online. Let me say it again. Online shopping. You get it in 2 days. You get it in like 2 days. And believe me, there's nothing you need. I know you. There is nothing you need.
No, wait a minute.
Can't wait 2 days for.
Wait a minute. It wasn't for me.
Other than bourbon, nothing.
Listen, it wasn't for me. You know why I was in the store. It wasn't for me.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, I know her. There's nothing she needs either that she can't get in 2 days. This is why. See, this is why this is why your son's not. He doesn't come home as much as you want him to. He's like, I'm out. I can't deal with that. It's like, he's like going back to 2 million, 10 million BC walking into your house. You know what I mean?
Daughter laughs. My daughter laughs. She laughs, my daughter, at me.
I would have paid good money to if he did actually start tap dancing, doing the shim sham tap dance right there at the door.
Well, wait a minute now. Wait a minute, T-Rex. You knew about the tap on the machine?
Well, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know all about. Listen, I know all about this stuff. I know about the tapping and the chips and the inserts and the slots and all of this stuff. I don't go to stores. I don't like people. I don't want to be around people. You understand? That's it. Not bicycle riders, not drivers, not friggin' shoppers. Nobody. So 2 days later, they come to the door. I didn't have to talk to those people. They just drop it off and walk away. You got to start doing that, Mark.
That's what I got to do. That's what I have to do.
So let them know. Give us a call on Heated Hotline. Let Mark know, what kind of dinosaur is he? Is he really? You're now on my level, I think.
Right I want a cash register. Nobody knows what that is. I want the cash register back.
So if you see Mark riding around in his student driver mobile where he's handing out his driver manuals to people, go ahead and give him throw a cash register at him, one or two of those, and he'll be happy. So Catone's comments was presented by Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. CorsoLawGroup.com. Allow us to be your voice. Hey, when we come back, we're going to talk defense. Pat's preview right after this.
It's that time again for a timeout for a message from one of our sponsors. No one ever thinks they will be in the need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people all across this great country who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. So whether it's a traffic ticket or if you need reduced DUI or more serious issues, call or go online to CorsoLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys who I know will help you. Corso Law Group.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. And hey, defense wins championships. Boy, do we need some for the Patriots. And we're going to talk about that in Pat's preview, and we're going to do that right now. So the draft's next week. Mark, the draft is next week. It's next week.
I don't believe. I still can't believe it's next week. What a week we're gonna have next week. I'm
telling you, Mark fell asleep in January, woke up this week, and the draft's next week. So we're ready to go. And so we're going to talk. You know, we've been leading up to the draft. We've been talking in position groups that we think the Patriots. Not every one. We're not going through every single one, but the positions of need that we think the Patriots need, which means that's what they need. If we think that's what they need, then that's what they need, right, Mark?
Of course it is. What do you think? If let's say we should be in the draft room, I'll drive up in my Mercury Comet and we'll go to the draft room
with his cash register, Joe.
Yeah, in the back.
So, listen. We went through offensive line. We went through wide receiver, some tight end talk. Now we flip to the other side of the ball, and we want to talk defense. And so the two positions we think, and we've been talking about it for years now, honestly, is that off-ball linebacker, which is basically a middle linebacker, that player that can play in the middle, get sideline to sideline, plug the gaps, good in the run game, can cover some. Basically, nobody we have to do any of that. Bentley, right. This is what we have. Bentley and Tavi. So we're talking off-ball linebacker. We want to talk a little corner and safety too. And so breaking this down, I mean, they have the 14th pick in the draft, and we're not going to go through every one of the picks they have. But this is not something I think they're going to go for at 14. There's not a linebacker for them that's going to, the edge rusher guys are going to go in the first 10 picks, right, Mark?
Yeah, they should. And honestly, Chris, I don't think we need that. That's not an immediate need for us, the edge guys, because we have enough of those guys, I think, right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking, Judon and Uche and Jennings and Dietrich Weiss had a great season as far as getting to the quarterback. And I think you're okay there. And with Guy and Barnmore and your front seven's pretty solidified. It's where the back, the middle of that front seven is the issue. So we talked about Bentley, we talked about Tavi. So some of the guys, and I went through and I broke this thing down to just basically off-ball linebackers, because the best linebackers in the draft are mostly the edge guys, the Will Anderson, the Tyree Wilson, and the Nolan Smith. Those guys are probably going to be gone, the first 10 picks, and I don't think that's something we should be looking at. But here's a couple of guys, and I'm going to give you a couple of guys in the first round, first day picks I think are possible. And one of the guys that's pretty high up there is this Henley out of Washington State. Okay, he's basically he's a converted wide receiver, really, and he can cover, man. This dude can run with almost anybody. Now, he missed 5 tackles last season out of the 97 attempts that he had. So.
And Chris, that's something you've been talking about. Yeah, but Chris, that's something you've been talking about for years, that we don't have anyone that can tackle, right? So that's a need for us.
Yeah, it is. But he's not a guy that's going to plug if anybody is thinking about that guy that Belichick likes, basically, that's just going to be that slug in the middle of the field, plug the gaps. Yep. They play that 2-gap stuff, and he's going to pick the gap and read it and all that stuff that Bentley can't do. This is not that guy. But this is a guy, when you talk about athleticism and speed, this is somebody that you could be looking at. And, he may drop into the second round. He probably will, given what we've been hearing about wideouts and all the other positions. So that's a guy that you look to. That's a possibility out of Washington State. And again, keep in mind the places, the schools that we're talking about. Because Mark and I are both big on competition. Who are they playing against all season long? We tend to stay out of the Pac-10, 12, whatever it is, Washington State, because it's been down for the last several years, right?
It has. And last year, Chris, I do got to say, Jack Jones was a pleasant surprise because he came out of the Pac-12, right? We were surprised. We're like, it's coming from Arizona State, but he surprised us. So,
Yeah, he did. Now, the other guy that I really, really want to talk about too, and I know you like this guy too, is Drew Sanders out of Arkansas. Okay. He's probably projected in the second round somewhere. Now you may, how many second round picks do you have, right? So you may have to do some maneuvering to get into back into the round again in order to take a guy like this. But he started at Alabama as an edge rusher, okay, before transferring over to Arkansas. And then he moved to that off-ball linebacker, which is great because that's the kind of versatility. If you're trying to sell this to Bill, okay, you sell versatility, right? So this is a guy that can get on the edge and rush, but he's also played off-ball linebacker, and he was really, really good in that role, Mark. He had 11 sacks, 39 total pressures as just a blitzer alone. But then when you put him out in coverage, he's physical with guys. He can run with a tight end, and he's got all the tools to be that traditional linebacker. He can blitz off the edge and the things we already talked about. So this is a guy to me out of Arkansas, and he played against competition. This is a guy that played at Alabama, right, Mark?
Well, you're playing NFL players every Sunday. You're playing against NFL players every Saturday. You're playing, right?
Yeah, and the thing about it is when you go into that portal, you worry sometimes that what's it going to be like? Okay, transfers from Alabama to Arkansas. How's that going to translate? Is it just going to kind of fade away? Well, this guy didn't. This guy took the opportunity and he showed. So that's a guy you definitely want to look at, Drew Sanders out of Arkansas. Then when you start to get into day two, Mark, because again, we need this. You have to draft this, and you see how amped up I am for this stuff because this is how badly we need this. So a couple of guys to look for in the second, third round. Talking about this Trenton Simpson from Clemson. Again, what's the theme here, Mark?
No, competition, Chris. Competition. Most of the time, those guys, Chris, contribute in the NFL. But we just don't seem to take them, right? We're taking the guy. He wants the guys from Iowa, Chris.
Well, and I'm going to get to that in a second as to what, who I think Belichick, but I'm going to talk about this Trent Simpson for a minute. He's 6'2", runs a 235, runs a 4.4 40. Okay. So he's got size, but he also has speed. He's rangy, fluid. He's a fluid athlete. He looks like a linebacker, He played the slot role over in Clemson in 2021. He only allowed 406 yards of rushing against him in his 612 snaps. So,
Chris, do you think he'll last in the third round, though, with that speed?
I do, because I think that I for some reason, he just seems to be getting overlooked a lot, Okay. And I don't know why. And it's weird to me, too, because lately, a lot of the linebackers out of the SEC have been overlooked, but then turn out to be great pros. For some reason, they quietly get drafted, and I don't understand that. I hope like hell this guy drops into the third round, because that's a guy I think they should absolutely look at and take, because he's a guy that can get on the field and be ready to play. He could be ready to play because he's as fluid as a safety is in coverage. So I can't see the downside.
I got a guy, Chris, who I think is a second or third round guy. Okay. Last year, he was injured a little bit, didn't show as much as he showed his junior year. His junior year, Chris, he was all over the field. He's an inside linebacker, 6'2", 250, Oregon, Noah Sewell. from
Yep.
Oregon.
Mhm.
I think he'll be there in the 3rd round, Chris. And I'll tell you what you have working for you to tell you if this kid is legit is you got the offensive line coach now who was on the staff at Oregon. So he should be able to tell you, Bill, this kid's a player, 3rd round, grab him. Because his tape, Chris, if you look at his tape as a junior, the kid looks like he's a 1st round linebacker. He's all over the field. He's big, he's strong, he's physical. And then last year, had a few injuries, dropped off a little bit. So you don't hear his name as much, Chris, but I think this kid could be the steal of the draft in the late 2nd round, probably 3rd round. I don't think he'll go before the 3rd round. And I think he's going to be one of the steals of the draft. If you look at his tape as a junior and you have the offensive line coach that was there, I'm sure saw this kid every day in practice. Now he's ours. He should be able to tell Belichick, draft this kid.
The good thing about this, and honestly think, Mark, I think he's going to be even later than that. I think he's a day 3 guy. You know,
Okay,
I have him as 145th.
Chris, I would take a shot on him because he's one of these guys. We're going to say 5th round. We called it. Kid's an all-pro because he shows that on his tape as a junior.
Sometimes with this kind of guy, see, he's 20 years old too. Okay, so he's a young prospect at 20. So I mean, you have time to work with this guy if you need to and get mail with him and that kind of thing. He's a throwback. Okay, the only knock for this guy, he's a throwback linebacker, and he's going to be a good fit.
That's a Belichick player,
right? Which is why it's a negative to us sometimes. But no, honestly, but he has the athleticism to play the position the way we want it played. But he's really going to be good in blitz heavy teams. Okay. He has a brother that plays. I think his name's Panay Sewell.
Yeah, he does.
I believe
he does.
And he's a guy that he's the same similar kind of guy. And when you're a blitz heavy team, this is a guy that can get through those gaps in those 2-gap systems. What I mean by 2-gap is the Patriots like to play sometimes. I listen to those guys in the flagship. They're trying to talk about the linebackers and guys, and they don't know what the hell they're.
You say 2-gap, they think you're talking about the putting green.
They don't know what they're talking about. But basically, a 2-gap system is basically an odd front. So you're playing 3 down linemen on the defensive line in a 0 or a 2 technique. 0, it be head up on the center, head up on the guard, and you got 3 guys across. And basically, what their job is that this is why they take pass rushers. This is why it's a waste to come up in the draft and take an edge rusher or a blitz heavy guy that's a down lineman for them, because they don't use them that way. You know, this is a guy that's going to play over the guard and then press him up and go to a gap and try to turn his body into one gap and press the player into the other gap and allow the linebackers to come up and make plays. That's what an odd front does. That's a 2-gap. That's a 2-gap system. Whereas other systems are 4 defensive linemen across with 2 defensive ends, and you allow, that's where the pass rushes come into play, where they tee off and they're getting through gaps. Barmore likes to play in that position a lot, like that 3
Chris,
technique.
He reminds me a little bit though of.
So I could talk about this shit all day.
Look, Joe, he's salivating. Joe, the old man salivating.
Take it easy on that microphone.
Chris, he reminds me a little bit though of how you used to use like Hightower. I think you could do that with this kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So if Bill's going to run a four linebacker
like you said,
set
as a project, you could, because you know what Bill does with rookies. So this is a kid you could take later and put him on the practice squad and let him sit and learn from Mayo and those guys. You know.
But if they're going to run a lot of blitz packages and they're going to do it out of an odd front with 3 linemen and 4 linebackers and those Judon on the edge and Uche on the other side, this kid would be good in the center and trying to get through those gaps and picking the side. He just has to be good in the run game too. But yeah, you're right. He's definitely a guy that I think in day 3 for sure will be there. You want to know the guy that I think Belichick would like? Does anybody want to know out there? You know,
Go
the
ahead.
guy we need to stay away from is Jack Campbell out of Iowa. Okay. This is Bill.
Another Iowa guy, Chris.
Look what I have written here. Bill's guy. Okay.
Here we go. Here we go.
Because this is guys. Look, he's a reliable linebacker, which I honestly have come to hate that word as it relates to linebackers now. Reliable. You know what reliable means to me? Big, slow, smart, all these things. But he's 6'5", 246. Okay. He's a big dude.
He's a thumper, Chris. He loves that word too.
Okay, there's no debating what this dude's game is going to be. He's going to translate to the next level. He's going to be a good pro, but he is what he is. He's a middle linebacker in the traditional sense. He's a guy that's going to plug gaps. He is not going to cover anybody. He's not going to cover anyone.
What, right. So is he a day 2 guy, Chris?
I mean, I got him on the board at 45, so he's probably a day 2 guy. I don't know where. I don't know where. I mean, Belichick will probably trade back up into the first round and take this guy, right? But I hope not. Because some of the other guys we just talked about are the guys that I think, who they should be looking at. And then, a couple of day 3 guys, Mark. You look at a Texas player, an Alabama player, Overshawn, Demarivon Overshawn out of Texas. I got him at 108th overall. And so that's a day 3 guy, 6'4", 224. It took a while at Texas for him to get to where they wanted him to go. But he became that overall linebacker that they were hoping for, that rangy guy, that good startup kind of get going, get sideline to sideline. He had 46 stops in 2022 after only having 32 in 21. So obviously,
Chris, how tall is he?
He's 6'4", but he's 6'4", 224. So he's
a little light, for Belichick.
He's light, but again, I'm into that now. I'm into that, Mark. I want that.
Listen, you're ruining our image of you. Yes, you're ruining the T-Rex image, Chris. You're getting into the new age of linebackers. You're supposed to want the big thumpers.
I know. But Mark, seriously, in all honesty, this is a guy. Again, yeah, you look at this. You look at his size and you say he's going to get down out there. But again, don't let the weight distract you from what this guy can do. This guy will cover guys. That's what it is, Mark. That's what it's about now. What's the last team that won a Super Bowl running the ball?
No, I don't. Us.
So again, and yes, he has issues against the run. That's his knock, which probably means Belichick won't take him. But if he's in there in the 4th round, 5th round, that's definitely a guy that's a guy.
Range. That's like a guy like Baltimore takes. Baltimore takes those guys and they turn into all pros. You know what I mean? Right.
And we end up getting them in free agency and overpaying. This is what happens, like Judon.
This is what happens. Yep, absolutely.
So that's a guy you can look at. And the other guy I would say is Henry. And I'm gonna butcher this name out of Alabama. It's Toa Tua out of Alabama.
Yeah, I like him, Chris.
I do too. Yeah, he's 6'1". He's 6'1", 227. Runs a 4.6, Mark.
But you know what, Chris? He would use him almost like he uses Phillips, almost like a hybrid. I think that's what Belichick would do with a guy like that, Chris. He'd play a little linebacker, a little safety, like you know what I mean?
Yeah, but athleticism, high end athlete. Again, an athlete. We keep talking about we want athletes. Well, this is an athlete, Mark. Okay.
But Chris, wouldn't he be a day 2 guy? Would he be a day 2 guy, or is he's a day 3?
Probably a day 3. Yeah, I think he's a day 3 guy. Again, guys, this is value. These are guys at this round and this stage in the draft that have athleticism that you can plug in, and they can play. Guy played at Alabama, man.
And you know what, Chris? That's the level of the draft that we have struggled with the last several years. We don't get guys in those rounds that can plug in and play anymore. And that's why we've, You
wonder what Mayo's doing then. I mean, how much? So are we going to see the new role for Mayo? Are we going to see him in the draft room, Mark?
I don't know. Well, they claim they gave him a new role. What is it? I don't know what it is. They didn't give him a title, a new title. So I don't know what it is.
Well, my hope is that he's going to have some say in the draft room, or maybe he isn't that good either. So
I would hope so.
We'll see. But if they listen to us, you're going to listen to me, man. That's what you're going to listen to.
That's
And
right.
Mark, so that's the one position in need. The other positions of need now have become what? Boundary corner, right?
Yeah, I would say so. What
do you got? What do you think?
But Chris, I'm going to be honest with so if you want to talk about elite, Chris, right? I mean, he's going to, let's face it. The kid from Oregon is Christian Gonzalez. He's got the potential to be an elite corner, right? Boundary corner. He has every single physical tool and attribute you're looking for in a corner. He's going to be way off the board. The kid Witherspoon from Illinois is going to be off the board, right? So when I don't think Belichick would take a corner, Chris, with the 14th pick in the draft anyways. So I think you're going to have to look towards who's there in the second round, who's there in the third round, because I don't think Belichick's going to waste. The only guy, Chris, that I could see Belichick possibly thinking about taking a first-round corner, because I think he fits what Belichick believes a corner is, Chris, is the kid from Penn State, Joey Porter.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll take him, but he fits Belichick's profile of that combination of speed, explosiveness, physicality. He's very versatile. He can do different things. Belichick likes that, but I don't think he's taking a corner in the first round, Chris. So if we're going to go through first round corners, we can, but I think we're wasting our time because I think we need to look at, like you did with linebacker, second and third day corners, because I don't think Belichick's going to take one in the first round. But those are guys, Chris, if I was taking one in 14, that I'd be looking at, but they're either not going to be there or, he's not going to take it anyway. So,
See, I don't like Porter. I wouldn't take him. And this would be a situation, Mark, where they trade out of 14 and maybe get down to the 20s and take maybe look at one of these guys. But
maybe
Porter's not a guy that I look, his measurables are good, but he doesn't play to his measurables. This is why I don't like the damn combine at times, because he doesn't play up to his measurables. His explosiveness, I don't see it on the field, and I don't like the competition. I'll tell you who I do like, though. If you're going to go up and want to get somebody, and he's probably a day one guy, is Deonte Banks out of Maryland. Okay.
Yeah.
This 6 feet, runs a 4.3. Okay. He's probably one of the most elite athletes in this draft. And he's a guy I think that's going to be, whoever takes this guy, you have a corner for the next, I don't know how many years, and he's going to get paid at one point. But as I said, he runs a 4.3. Look, he's fluid. He's explosive. He can turn. He's got great hips. Okay, good hands. He's strong, and he's is he a competitor? And he played for Maryland, so he played he played against the right kind of competition. Okay, but he'll also come up and he'll hit. He'll come up and he'll set edges. He'll hit. And you know what? He has to work on his technique a little bit, but this is a guy I think you'll like. Obviously, Witherspoon's this guy out of Illinois. You mentioned them. That's probably not going to be there. But looking at some other guys, you want to know the guy I want the most, the guy I like the best out of, and I don't know where he'll go, honestly. Emmanuel Forbes out of Mississippi State. Okay. 6'1", runs a 4.3. Okay.
Yeah, but Chris,
if
isn't he
you're
lean?
looking, he's as I said, he's 6'1".
Isn't like 166 pounds?
He's 160 pounds, 166 pounds. But they're going to put
That's
weight
light,
on. Look,
Chris.
this is
Chris,
this is a
that's light for a
boundary corner, man.
No, I know he is.
But this is a guy you put some weight on. He's he'll put some weight on.
Yep.
But he's a guy that you're going to put. I mean, the issue for us was our boundary corner is Jonathan Jones, and he really doesn't belong there.
No, he doesn't.
And so to me, guy like this, yeah,
I like Forbes,
I get
Chris.
it. His weight is the only issue. His weight is the only
And
issue.
I had him highlighted, Chris, just because of the competition he plays every week.
Right.
He played against the Alabama corners. He played against the kid Hyatt from Tennessee. He played against Georgia. He played against the best competition in the country. So, yeah, when you talk about him, that's what you're
Nobody's
getting,
going to run by him. I can tell you that.
No, nobody's running by him. Nobody's running by him. I agree with that.
So,
totally agree.
can he get physical up front? Can he be physical? Is he going to be is he a cover 2 corner? No. Can he bump and run? Well, he's got to get a little stronger. So, I mean, he's got to improve that way. But, Mark, some of the other guys, when you start to look at day 2, day 3
Chris,
guys.
the other kid from Georgia though is got some good is plays well. Chris, if you look at the tape, the kid Ringo from Georgia, he's 6'2", 207. He runs a 4.3 40. Chris, 4.3 540. He also can be a boundary corner for you, and he may be there later in the first round. You're talking about.
Oh, I see him as a third round.
Huh?
I see him. I don't know if he's going to hit the second round. I don't know that.
You think he's a third round corner?
I don't think he's going to sniff the second round.
He'll never go in the. You think he's going to be in the first round?
No, I don't.
Chris, he'll never drop that far. Chris, with his athleticism, he'll never drop that far down. Never.
Well, I like him too. I mean, I'll tell you this: if he drops late in the second round, the value there for him.
Oh, there's value there. And Chris, he played against the best competition in the country.
Once again, you see the theme, right? And Mark and I keep talking about. So again, these are some of the guys. Another guy to look for real quick is out of Texas A&M. A day 3 guy, Jalen Jones, out of Texas A&M. He's another guy like 6'2", 200 pounds, 38 vertical. He had a 6'8", 3 cone, and all that stuff. I get it, but the thing with him is he's a little underrated. Okay. But he definitely grades out. I mean, he's got a lot of he's got a high ceiling. So there's another guy to look for in the later rounds. But so corner is going to be boundary corner. That's the thing Mark and I keep talking about. That's what we want to see. But Mark, at safety, you and I only have a couple of guys we want to talk about. But Mark and I, before the show started, were talking about. I said I got the next Eric Weddle. Years ago, I said Eric Weddle. I wanted him in the draft. They didn't take him. The guy went on to be an all-pro for years and years and years. It pissed me off to this day. I said, I have the next Eric Weddle. And Mark said, I got the same guy. I got a guy too. Let's see if it's the same guy. So, Mark, you do the honors. Who do you have?
Okay, I know it's not the same guy because what I'm looking for this position, I know it's not the same guy. But the guy that I absolutely love, and I think he'll be late. He's a day 2 pick. He's not a day 1 guy. He'll be second, third round, probably early third round, late second round. He's a ball hawk. He's always around the ball. He had a bunch of interceptions last year. Wherever the ball is, that's where he is from center field. Is Jair Brown from Penn State is all over the field, Chris. I love him. I think you can get him early third round, late second round. He'll be an absolute steal. You drop him at safety, he'll be there for the next 10 years.
The guy I have is Brandon Joseph.
Again, Chris, put that up again. I put that graphic up again.
Of course, it's a Notre Dame guy. Of course.
Brandon Joseph, and we only have a minute, but Brandon Joseph out of Notre Dame, Mark. You want a guy to replace McCourty? This is the guy. This is a starting free safety right now. And you can get him in the third round. Okay. Huge IQ. Real high. He can, because he was a transfer guy. Okay. He can play deep center field. He can play cover 2. He can get to his landing spots. He can come forward and hit. Okay. He's got fantastic ball skills. He can go up at its highest point. Okay. And he can strike like no other in tackling. This is my Eric Weddle. This is the next free safety. Take this guy in the third round, Mark. Take this guy in the third round.
All right. All right.
So that's our assessment.
I'll listen to him.
So that's it. And you know what? That's my assessment of the defense, Mark. Anything else to add on that?
No, listen. You do realize at the end, when we go through all the sheets and all our picks, Belichick ain't taking any of our guys because he never does. And we're always right. And we're always right.
So we'll see what happens. Let's hear from you in Heated Hotline. Let us know what you think. Next week, we're going to be talking our draft recap as the Patriots go through the draft, and that'll be 7 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. Come back, Corso and Catone. Hey, listen, all our shows are up for you to watch this week on YouTube, iHeart, all of it. So get on, listen, watch, and next week, 7 p.m. Eastern, we're going to do our draft recap, talk more NBA and NHL playoffs, and Catone's comments, of course. Anything you bring to the table, we will be ready. We are Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. See you next Saturday.
Find Corso and Catone on iHeartRadio, iTunes, or wherever you podcast. And subscribe to the YouTube channel, Corso and Catone, and catch the chaos at 7 p.m. on Saturday.